Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to JSM Impact Conversations. Today I'm really emotional and I'm really thrilled to be here because I have a very special person joining us today in today's conversation. So I am joined by Nandita Shivakumar. Nandita is joining us from India, and Nandita is an activist. She is a researcher, and she is a like people mobilizer to fight against injustice and all the social problems and also ecological problems facing garment workers in India and beyond. I met Nandita last year through our good friend Tivya from TTCU, um, Tamil Nadu Textile and Common Labor Union. I will put the link in the conversation box, so please get in touch with them, understand what they are doing, and try to really understand how they are creating substantial change for the workers, with the workers, join them and join this movement. Long story short, we met last year and we became fast friends. And now I'm really honored to have Nandita in today's conversation. So I will not speak at all. I will leave the floor to Nandita because she has so much to tell us. But first and foremost, Nandita, welcome.
Thank you so much, Hakan. It's such a pleasure to be here. You're such an inspiring figure. You've been able to bring research, activism, different communities, people who are working in labor rights, people who are working on ecological rights, people who are working to improve fashion together. And it's such an honor to be in conversation with you. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Nandita. It's my honor. So it is about us. It is about this collective action and collective change. You are a labor organizer and you are a campaigner. I want you to explain to our audience from supply chain management communities and beyond. So who are you and what you are doing and what makes you this special?
Thank you so much. I do wear a couple of different hats. To be very honest, I started working on issues in textile supply chains because I really wanted to research into labor rights. But I soon realized that research alone is not going to bring change. And research cannot be in a silo. Research has to feed into people's movements. It should help create a better world. And that's where I started, wearing other hats, being a labor organizer, supporting different types of marginalized communities so that they have the basic tools they require to access justice. Because many countries have incredible laws, like even India has great laws, but people, especially working class women from marginalized communities, really struggle to enjoy those basic rights. And people who have a bit more privilege, we can support them to help achieve their rights. It is not to lead the movement, but to support them in their struggles for something so fundamental, right? Their dignity, their health, their well-being. So that's how I, as a researcher, also became, somebody who works very closely with communities, marginalized communities, as an organizer, helping them with their campaigns, whatever skills I can offer to help bring justice to people who really need it.
Great, Nandita. One thing that really touches me, you always underline this, and we always talk about this with you. Workers are seen as commodities and they are seen as resources to optimize. But this logic is so unfair and it's not right. So you are working with the garment makers and you are bringing substantial change also to their lives, but also you are understanding bottom up innovation with tested knowledge. Here, I want to ask this question. Nandita and I, we are now working with my colleagues from Politecnico di Milano School of Management. We are working on a really interesting research on heat stress and the impact on the workers from the workers' voice. And we are trying to really create some inclusive pathways to understand how it should be challenged and how it should be changed with the information coming from the workers. Nandita, in the fashion industry and beyond, heat stress is an argument that people talk only in June and July when heat is quite unbearable in the global north, but actually it is a year-long phenomena and year-long problem. And also, we are in October, and this is the reason why I wanted to have this conversation with you when the attention is not on the heat stress per se. I want to ask this question to you, what it means, and why should workers be at the center of these conversations?
Absolutely. I think these are great questions. You know, heat affects us very differently, even if we're in the same location, right? I could be someone who can afford an air conditioner. So even if I'm at 40 degrees Celsius, it's not really going to affect me so much as a low wage garment worker who has to work 12 hours in a factory floor, where temperatures are more than outside and where they feel like a pressure cooker. So heat is very, very differential. And we have a tendency to always center ourselves in these discussions rather than center everyone and the environment. And that's something that we've learned. I think that's part of living in a capitalistic society, to be individualistic, to become selfish. And what happens in this process is we realize that in the long run, we ourselves are going to face harm because of this individualism, because of this selfishness. And the moment you start centering the community, the society, the workers, one is mentally also, you are going to be in a better place, to be honest, when you start thinking in terms of community. Your own sense of connection with people, with the environment changes. It's a really revealing, insight. How much lighter your soul feels when you can really connect with others as human beings and not as workers, and you can see yourself in them. And one tool, like I was just telling a friend of mine, that really helps people do this is very simply reading storybooks from different parts of the world. Like, I remember that was something that really helped me empathize, because when you hear the stories of other people, you also realize that they're not very different from you. You know, they also have the same dreams, they also have the same basic needs. So how is it that we can close our eyes when someone is struggling? So maybe that is a place where you can start your journey towards change. Yeah.
Absolutely. Empathy. I think is a key word. And here I want to give some context. Nandita and I and Tivia, with so many wonderful garment makers, we are doing this research at the moment. And I will give this example. Let's keep things quite honest and transparent, Nandita. Tivia was in the field along with Nandita to collect data because we are doing this research at the moment. And actually, they have been doing this ethnographic research for more than 10 years now. And Tivia was in the field, in the garment factory, and she fainted because the indoor temperature was pushing 39 degrees. I remember Tivia sent me, and you also sent me the picture of the temperature, and the next thing I know was Tivia fainted, and her LinkedIn post went viral. I will also put the post in the chat box. So this is the reality. This is why also researchers, we should be in the field collecting data and creating stories with all these important participants in our research. This brings me to my last question. Nandita, you said something to me last year. It stays with me every day. You said researchers can do more harm than good. You are a researcher yourself. You have been doing research and you collaborate with multiple researchers. Can you elaborate what you meant and how can we fix this?
Absolutely. It is true that, when you come from a position of privilege and there is a marginalized community, unless you're very careful, you can cause a lot more harm as a researcher. I'll give some certain small examples to illustrate. Many a times, we might have a master's thesis, we might have a PhD thesis that we want to complete, and you want to go to the community. But, it's a marginalized community, right? They're already struggling with many issues. And just to get your thesis done, you start imposing your timelines on them. Say, give me these answers, give me this data. I need this tomorrow. And thereby you're not going at the community's timeline. You are imposing your timeline on them. And if it is something sensitive like gender-based violence, you might be asking such intrusive questions that their trauma is actually increasing in the process. and if you cannot afford to give them therapy or mental health support after that, you're putting them in a much much worse situation for nothing but your own personal interests of your own PhD, of your own master's degree, right? And so you're not centering that survivor, you're not centering that community, you're centering yourself. That selfishness is what takes over. And we have to be very, very careful, especially when you come from positions of privilege. And you also have to realize that as much as we mean to do well with research, sometimes we cannot do a lot of good things, even though our research is important, right? And you always have to weigh in, is my research, however well intended, right now going to cause more harm? So, should I not do it, or is it better for me to do it? And all of this has to be done in consultation with the community. Sometimes I keep hearing, like, oh, you're not giving me access to the community. I'll just walk into that community and get this data. Sometimes people might say that because we already know that this is going to cause harm. And then if you don't listen to the gatekeepers, like that's what we called, I think it's a bit problematic, because sometimes we have to gatekeep to protect marginalized communities. This is not to say that you should not do independent research. That is not to say there should not be any research on all of this. But how you do it, where do you do it, what is the right moment to do some sort of a research? These are all important questions to consider. And my personal last point in this regard is, don't decide tomorrow that you will walk into some global south country and you will do a research and you will come back. You have to build relationships, relationships with these communities. And I can say that, like, Hakan and I, we are doing a research on heat stress, which is multi-country. And we're able to do that because we've invested many years on these relationships. And we've done it in a way that, it takes time. We're not asking people to say about their traumatic episodes. They can tell what they want. And using the data they are willing to give, we're trying to put out the story there. And it is possible to do research like this. There are researchers who are doing it. It is a question of mentality. Are you seeing them as just a research subject? Or are you seeing them as a human who might have gone through a lot more struggle than you? And are you going to be empathetic and kind to them at that moment?
Amen. And Nandita, you said everything because also it is quite hypocritical to talk about sustainability in research and somehow criticize resource optimization in our theories or in our stories. But then doing the same to our research participants and approaching them as just data points rather than human beings. And you are absolutely spot on. Also, I remember you always underline this with your op-eds, with your articles. It is not about the grants or it's not about the awards or it's not about publications. It is about building stories and sustaining those communities. So we just need to create these long lasting relations to make sure we empower people. And I also here would like to invite all my researcher friends and colleagues to this conversation. Editors, associate editors, reviewers also need to be open minded because you said something so important. Data is given by the interviewees, but they are the research participants, and we talk about really sensitive topics, so we cannot just impose, again, northern centric and western centric constructs to those realities. Also, we cannot necessarily measure things in the way old school books ask us to measure or validate. So also review process should change and article writing should be more epistemically and methodologically inclusive. And we invite everyone to learn from Nandita and everyone that is conducting field research and how we can challenge these conversations. Nandita, it has been really eye-opening and really impactful. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. Would you like to add anything else?
Thank you so much, Hakan. It's just been a wonderful conversation. I think a few last points that I would say is, I think all of us who might be listening to this conversation might be coming from a position of privilege, which could be of various natures. So always introspect that and go back to your fundamental values, right? I know that there is a publish and perish culture that is there in academia. It pushes us to do things which we might not want to do, but there's always a possibility to subvert it. think about it. If you cannot think about it on your own, talk to other people. I myself am willing to have conversations to help folks out on how we can do research in ways that does not harm the community, because there's so much violence out there. We do not need to replicate violence. There are ways to find out information, to research, treating people well, treating people kindly. And let's go back to those basic values in research. And trust me, your research is going to be fabulous when you start centering these people instead of centering yourself.
Nandita, thank you so much. This has been brilliant, and I'm really proud and I'm honored to call you my friend. So, thank you so much for everything you do. And also, I forgot to mention, but Nandita is also a board member at the Union of Concerned Researchers in Fashion, UCRF, and we will also put the link in the chat box. So, Nandita, thank you so much for your time, and I love everything that you do and we do together. So, let's build on and let's create these conversations even further.
Thank you so much, Hakan. It's so wonderful to collaborate with you, so wonderful to talk to you. And thank you for bringing these important conversations to all of us. Like, I love the series. Really looking forward to more episodes from the series.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I really hope you everyone enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. So stay in touch and we will see you at the next Impact Conversations episode. And this is only the beginning to make sure this movement is inclusive, fair, and kind for everyone. See you soon and thank you very much.
Thank you.